Welcome to Summoner's Rift. 30 seconds until minions spawn. Minions have spawned.
The wheel turns, day becomes night. Time to make colors.
First blood. An ally has been slain.
I should figure out a new game. One that mortals can
been slain. An ally has been slain. Been slain.
Maybe you'll hit me this time.
Enemy killing spree. Your turret has been destroyed.
Vertical GPU brackets, what's their deal? So in the past year we've noticed many cases that come included with the dual vertical PCI slots beside the normal ones, or some sort of space to accommodate a vertical PCI bracket for your GPU, and it looks great when it's mounted facing you, but are there any benefits and temperatures, and exactly what are the benefits and drawbacks with vertical PCI brackets? Let's talk about that right after this. The new Master Liquid all-in-one coolers are available in 120 and 240mm stylish radiator sizes, with air balance fans included for best airflow and RGB sync on the pump and the fans that are controlled via this hub or through your motherboard. Check out the ML120L and 240L below. Okay, so this is a pretty relevant topic because more and more cases now can support vertical mount for the GPU, and you gotta pay extra premium to have all the appropriate mounting accessories that generally involve a PCI extension cable and something to mount it to the frame securely. For my test setup, I'm using the latest EVGA case, the DG77. Check out that review if you haven't already. And I removed the front glass panel because that is a choking hazard for the fans. I'm testing two style of graphics cards, this dual fan GTX 1080 for the win, with all the shiny lights on the shroud, so you can observe and customize how it looks facing you, and then the Founders Edition GTX 1060 with still a pretty shroud but a blower style cooler, so we can observe the temperature differences in vertical and standard positions. I also have two coolers for testing, the Corsair H100 IV2 mounted at the front because 240mm all-in-ones in this spot are quite popular, but because they blow warm air into the case because of that radiator, I've also got a Huron tower from Be Quiet. It's a small enough one to not interfere with the vertical GPU mount, and I would say it's about the size of an average CPU tower. And I'm also replacing all the fans with Silent Wings 3, so one for exhaust and two for intake, with nothing up top, so my total fans in the system remains the same when I swap the coolers. So cosmetics is the obvious advantage of going vertical, even though this would be at the top of the card for the cool shroud design, and for cards that have no backplates, this is a huge visual advantage. It also helps to fill in that empty space in the case, and you have that card center of attention. Now you have to keep in mind the power cables and how they're routed, and also what is the card blocking. On this case, it's far away from other PCI slots, so you can put stuff in there without interfering with the vertical one, but the extension cable is on the top PCI slot, essentially blocking access to everything else. Of course, you can reposition the extension cable to a lower PCI slot in order to install the machine. And also, this mount has to happen after you route all your front rail cables and anything below that motherboard, otherwise the access is pretty limited. And the mount is usually pretty close to the side panel, sparking questions for airflow, so let's get into that now. My room temperatures remain constant with less than 1 degree fluctuation. I removed EVGA's DG tuner, so the cards are operating within their factory parameters and not being overclocked. And each load state lasted for 20 minutes in Doom, so we can heat up the interior of a case, and I also recorded the noise levels of each configuration. And starting off with the 1080 for the win, we hit 82 degrees Celsius with tiny bit of fluctuations in both configurations, and constant just over 2000 RPM on the fan curve. But check this out, core clocks in the vertical mount are around 5% lower. So I'm thinking the proximity to the glass is impacting its cooling potential, and therefore it's slightly throttling itself. For the blower style GTX 1060, temperatures are slightly better in vertical orientation with only slightly lower RPM on the fan, but the clocks are exactly the same, leveling off at 1835 MHz. Switching over for the air cooler, and the GTX 1080 stays at 82 degrees Celsius with the same fan speed in either orientation, and again we're running into lower frequency on the core in the vertical mount by around 3%, but the lack of warm air entering the case from the radiator gives us that slight boost in clock speeds. For the blower style GTX 1060, we're seeing 5 degrees Celsius cooler temperature in the horizontal position, most likely due to better airflow delivery from that front fan that results in lower fan speed on the card, but surprisingly, core clocks over time remain the same at 1835 MHz with this unusual dip by the end in the vertical orientation. And aside from seeing worse temperatures, we're also seeing higher noise in vertical orientation because the card and its fans are facing the window, and therefore the noise isn't as absorbed by the interior. Alright, so what have we learned? So number one, vertical orientation is great if you want to showcase your graphics card and the shroud and customize the color of the LEDs if you are into that, but also it fills in that space that is otherwise void. So they're all visual advances. But from a performance standpoint, you're running into a slightly hotter GPU because of that proximity to the side panel. It is also slightly louder, and it creates a bit of an inconvenience if you need to access anything on the bottom side of the motherboard, because it's just there's so much stuff now in front of there. And also in terms of the performance on the core clocks front, we are seeing about 5% reduction in core clocks, which will impact gaming performance not in a good way, but that of course can be counteracted with an overclock that will diminish any of those differences in whatever orientation. And so I hope this clears up some questions regarding vertical GPU mounts, and if you are thinking of going that route, let me know in the comments below. I'm Dmitry, thanks so much for watching, we'll see you in the next video.
We don't try to understand the sense it doesn't make, so we're trying to share that with you. You're welcome.
Hey guys, Eber here with Hurricane X, and if you recall a few months back, NVIDIA officially launched their Max-Q technology, which endeavored to offer desktop-class gaming performance in an ultrabook size portable form factor. The resulting designs were a significant step forward in the notebook sphere, but most importantly, it also gave us a little glimpse into what the future can in store. Now, NVIDIA promised excellent gaming performance along with great battery life and acoustics, and I was really curious to test out some of these new Max-Q notebooks because I've been on a hunt to find a portable editing notebook ever since Computex, and this is just perfect timing because CES is just a month away and I have these two notebooks to test out. On one hand, there's the ROG Zephyrus that features an i7-7700H CPU, 16GB of RAM, a GTX 1080 in its Max-Q design, a 512GB Samsung NVMe SSD, 15.6-inch 1080p 120Hz G-Sync IPS display. That's right, my friends, G-Sync at 120Hz, and it retails for $2,700. Yes. But on the other hand, we have the Gigabyte Aero 15X, featuring the exact same specs except for the GPU. In this case, it comes with a 1070, a Toshiba NVMe SSD, and a 1080p 60Hz IPS display. And this retails for $2,200, which is still an expensive notebook. Now think about it this way, these notebooks are designed and geared towards a specific type of audience, the one who cares about performance, portability, and efficiency in a compact form factor. Now, there's obviously the argument that you can build a much better gaming desktop PC for less than half the cost of these notebooks, but ultimately it comes down to your preference. If you really want performance and efficiency in a compact form factor, there's going to be a premium price to pay for that. So let's take an in-depth look of the ROG Zephyrus and the Gigabyte Aero 15X right after a message from our sponsor.
The new Master Liquid all-in-one coolers are available in 120 and 240mm stylish radiator sizes, with air balance fans included for best airflow and RGB sync on the pump and the fans that are controlled via this hub or through your motherboard. Check out the ML120L and 240L down below.
Alright, let's kick things off with the ROG Zephyrus because it's a unique notebook in every aspect when compared to the competition. The first noticeable difference is the design of this notebook. When you open it up, you'll notice that ASUS had to make some structural sacrifices, namely embedding a desktop class